A high number of school kids are dead. That's your position.
Oh fuck, here it comes.
I'm just telling you, maybe they're not. Like, that's my position. Long live the king.
I was really hoping this guy would shut the hell up for a little bit, or at least not do something wildly insane long enough for me to finish any of the other projects that I'm trying to work on. But here we are. If you're new here, which you will be, because I am too, welcome to Pub Politics. I have an undergrad in international relations and political science, but this won't be academic. Got on my face. This will be a true Ozzy Man review. Let's get into it. Ozzy Man Reviews is fucking back at it again. This time with his fantastic analysis of the bombing of the girls' school in Minab, Iran, proving to us all that this is a hoax to garner sympathy for the dead Ayatollah, I suppose.
After 12 years of experience online tracking user-generated content source videos for wildlife commentaries and nutshot fails, I thought I should look at this. I thought maybe my skills are transferable for something more serious.
No, they aren't, and this video proves why. This time he's taking aim at the mainstream media over the pushing of this narrative of the bombing of a school in Iran. His jumping off point here is this unattributed message from someone on Facebook who says that they have a friend in Minab.
This is a message that came into my inbox after someone had spoken to a friend of theirs who lives in Minab. The person goes on to say everyone only has state TV, people are left in the dark with what's happening, and there is also a heap of military equipment moving into Minab.
And that he says he feels has authenticity and substance.
I have the one message, and I believe there's sincerity in the substance of it.
Which the hypocrisy of this will become far more apparent as we move on. The thesis of his video is essentially that because AI exists and he is incompetent, therefore there must be a conspiracy to benefit the Iranian government, and that he doesn't think children died, which is a weird hill to die on. So let's have a look at his first piece of evidence.
Why, between two very important body gore graphic images, do we have a change in the creation date? The close-up says Feb 28, 2026. The other one, the wide shot, says August 13, 2020. The clock, funnily enough, stays the same. A close-up of a child's arm in rubble at 2:30 p.m. I feel like when you have an innocent tech issue, like the clock resets to something random as well. Believe me, I've had so many days where I'm like, it's nothing. But wouldn't you think that when a 47-year-long terroristic government is accusing other countries of deliberately killing its schoolgirls, that this metadata would be air fucking tight? Associated Press? Yeah? Nah?
First things first, what we can see from the photos that he's showing us is that they are consistent between shots. The first one, which is correctly dated and timed, matches all the details of the close-up with the incorrect information. The other thing he doesn't show you though is these are not the only two photos that this person uploaded or that are available on the site. In fact, here is a photo from the same photographer at the same site with a consistent time and day. Notice this pink structure in the background here. In this photo, which has the same date issue, we can clearly see consistency with the pink structure with the same destruction. And from this angle, we can see the other side of the wall, which mirrors the same destruction. Similarly, if we zoom out a bit further, we can also see that the bits of debris match other photos available. Now, Ozzy Man questions this image as authentic. His first argument is saying he doesn't trust the person named as the owner because of the scarcity of images.
Ali Najafi, I'm sure it's nothing I had to say again. I go to his Getty account on March 5th. I screenshot it because I thought the scarcity of editorial images diminishes my trust in him. I mean, maybe I wasn't alone because when I went back to his account on March 9th, whoop-de-fucking-do, there's 713 images now. Seems like an overcorrection.
However, in the screenshot he shows, he searched Ali Najafi ISNA AFP, which only brought up 4 images in his older screenshot. And that does the same thing for me today. Then he shows this other screenshot where suddenly there are over 700 photos when searching, and I can't explain that. When I do the search today, it's only 4 images, including the cropped ones he claims were removed.
Getty has removed 2 of the 4 that were originally there on March 5th because it seems like they were just crops.
However, Ali Najafi actually has 638 images available on Getty Images here. Some of Ali's work is included in the screenshot Ozzy Man provided, because Ozzy Man isn't even using Getty properly. If you open the images on Getty, you can click onto Ali Najafi's profile, and see that this person has been contributing to Getty fairly consistently between June 2020 and January 2023, when he suddenly stopped. A lot of mundane content, but also some political content surrounding Iraqi Shiites. It looks like he lived in Iraq for a little bit. Here's the other thing though. Random people getting photos from events that received widespread media attention usually do send it to places like Getty Images so that they can get paid for taking the photo. This isn't unheard of and doesn't inherently make something suspicious. And Ozzy Man hasn't argued against that. He does the same thing with this other attributed photographer, Amir Hossein Kargoui. I'm sorry if I butchered that.
Amir Hossein, he's predominantly provided funeral procession photos, which there's a lot of those credited in articles.
Ozzy doesn't appear to have done any search though beyond looking at Getty Images, because Amir actually has a pretty extensive online footprint as a freelance photojournalist, stretching back years and years and years and years. He goes on then to tie this back to the Iranian Student News Network.
The company he's credited as working for is ISNA. It's a softer, sneakier portal of propaganda aimed at attracting young people in Iran.
As the source for these photos and the outlet that these photojournalists work for propaganda purposes. I think because their acronym appears in some of the photos, but from what I've seen, it looks more like the tie here is that they have contributed to ISNA stock databases to get paid for their work. If you look at the photos, they also have the tag AFP, which is a French news outlet that similarly does stock photo distribution. If I uploaded to Getty Images or AFP myself, that doesn't mean I'm suddenly working for them full time. So that premise is pretty weak from the get-go. And this isn't to say anything about the censors or state control, but even so, the existence of these images that are not proven to be fabricated are consistent with all other images and accounting for the other information that Ozzy Man was either too incompetent to research or chose to omit, do not prove some enormous media hoax that he claims. If you read any of the articles that use these photos, they don't dispute the photo authenticity, but they always also qualify their statements about any death figures. By doing this, he's essentially turned into an IDF propagandist that says any dead body was just Pallywood. This is just Irani wood. I mean, just look at him here.
They have an AI feel. It feels like there's a prompt to say make sure mourners have phones in their hands because it's naturalistic for every large event to have people filming.
He also makes note of this message on the ISNA website, which according to Google just actually says website unavailable, although that's not how he frames it.
Which from Farsi to English translates to back the fuck off from our website of incriminating conflicting information. Or thereabouts. I need to ask me Misso and me Iranian friends again.
Which doesn't surprise me considering the current war ongoing. Again though, it's a really big reach, as if no journalist has ever thought to get a VPN and go to this website.
If any journalists have tried, which I don't think you have, but if you have, if you've tried to look at the news agency websites.ir, you can't.
Ozzy Man, of course, is the first person to ever think of this. I'm not even a journalist, and that was my very first thought. And in fact, when I go to the website, it says down. In fact, if you go to somewhere like the Wayback Machine, you can see that the morning of, this website was still up and running. It wasn't until about when the US and Israel launched their attack that it went offline. So his assertion that this is just a way to hide contradictory information just doesn't make sense and is founded on nothing but his own personal feelings. He could have done this and may have off camera, but chosen not to show it because it wasn't convenient. But again, the argument he presents here is stupid and doesn't make sense and doesn't actually match reality. He went to the website, saw that it was unavailable after the war started, and just assumed that it was to hide contradictory information, as if journalists are incapable of ever figuring this stuff out, and he is the only smart person that can do that. The next thing he does is he takes aim at this aerial drone photo. From my review and Ozzy Man's and that of the media, it's pretty clear this drone footage and photo are real, but listen to how he describes it.
The aerial drone photo, let's do it, let's unpack this. It's been everywhere as well. On Associated Press, it's credited as Iran's foreign media department. On Getty, it's credited as handout, indicating it's come from the Islamic Republic government in both cases as well. It's highly controlled. The ghost author is Morteza Akhondi. He has uploaded drone videos on his Instagram account over the last week. The one that's approved on the AP website shows a camera in Adobe Bridge, Hasselblad. That's in the DJI Mavic 3s from 2021, that particular camera. In his Instagram gallery post of the funeral day, you can see the drone shadow in a photo. ChatGPT and Gemini have led me down some fucking dodgy paths over 80 hours of looking at this. But yeah, look, they say with 90 to 95% confidence that shadow matches the DJI with the Hasselblad camera in its metadata. It's got to be him. How many blokes in Minab have this gear to do this type of imagery?
Your first issue here, mate, is you're relying on ChatGPT and Gemini to do your thinking for that long. But more importantly, he says AI is 90 to 95% sure that it's real. He sprinkles in a bit of doubt there. What he omits, though, is that the gallery is 20 images long, plus the video of the graves being dug, plus another video on the Instagram feed of the funeral, all of which are where these images were taken from. They were taken from those videos. Even he identifies that one of the images shows a shadow of the drone, but he still questions it despite all the evidence showing that it's probably real. Just because this guy also posted the most obvious AI slop previously to this, which given your admission of using AI a whole lot during your research of this fucking slop video.
ChatGPT and Gemini have led me down some fucking dodgy paths over 80 hours of looking at this.
Is a bit rich, and it doesn't actually prove anything. He just says his integrity is fucked because he posted some AI slop and moves on as if that disproved authenticity. It's just inferring that he is correct without actually showing any provable facts. And when you look into it, he omitted quite a lot in order to make this argument. So if anyone's integrity is fucked, it's you.
Jarring, you have this graveyard photo with a scarce amount of people, and then fucking bam, look at that, there's a huge crowd of people that actually cared that were there. So no matter what, it's bloody jarring on all occasions, and it's causing misinformation.
What misinformation? You didn't argue anything other than that social media has some fake shit, which everyone already knows, then pointed to this licensed image's crowd size and asked for a retraction and apology on behalf of Iranians? Are you saying this one is fake? Why is it fake? Jesus fucking Christ, man. If you're going to at least try this, at least make an argument or present something. Fuck. Quickly, he also added this note about the AP taking down this photo from their stock website. He doesn't mention, though, that it's still available on the AFP, which is the original credited distributor outside of Iran. Anyway, as he always does, he goes back to the protests in January and points to this article from Iran International, a Saudi and Israeli-backed outlet based in London. I say Saudi and Israeli-backed because these are two of Iran's biggest adversaries in the region, and two of the people who would love to see Iran be less powerful and probably cut into lots of chunks that are perpetually engaged in civil war. Iran International is the key disseminator around the 35,000 plus figure of Iranians killed during these protests. Editing James here. Iran International is also one of the key purveyors of this idea that the January protests were this big popular movement in support of the Shah, but interviews with people on the ground have kicked that to the curb as that they don't want a dictator. However, if you listen to people like Ozzy Man, you would not know that. You would think that this was a big popular uprising for the return of a king.
It's been young people on the streets in January chanting Javed Shah, requesting the return of Reza Pahlavi. Long live the king.
Anyway, but like Ozzy Man, their research is not very clear or transparent. More on that at the end. Here we finally get to the real meat and potatoes.
I mean, I do think that, yeah, obviously the school was hit, the strike hit the school. Maybe there were some IRGC kids there on that day. And it kind of matches up with the message I got that they didn't bring their kids to school, but maybe a couple of poor fucking kids were there.
Do you see what he did there? Aside from just believing no kids were present based on this random secondary source that messaged him on Facebook, maybe there were some IRGC kids there. See, they're not kids. They're IRGC kids, despite what he goes on to say about segregating kids and tragedy.
And I will always segregate the kids and say that's a tragedy. But we know the school was in an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps fucking base.
He labels them not as uninvolved kids, but IRGC kids. Now, first of all, this school didn't just have IRGC kids in it, because it wasn't technically part of a military base. It was just a repurposed building. But doing this is implying, I guess, some sort of intentionality to their deaths, that these parents just wanted to use their kids as some kind of propaganda piece which, where's the evidence? Come on, if you're going to make the claim, just fucking evidence, man. And this point about the school being on an IRGC military base has been coming up a lot to justify the deaths of these kids. First things first, it looks like everything was done properly to segregate the school from the base. It was clearly marked. It was segregated by walling. And it looks like it wasn't even technically part of the military base. It was an old part that they basically cut off from what the actual military base was to be repurposed as a school, which is not illegal. Here's a picture of another IRGC base with its many, many schools on it. Oh, no, sorry, that's an American base. See, schools exist on bases. Every country does it because soldiers have families and lots of soldiers live on bases. This doesn't make it more or less a war crime or a tragedy. The school's existence was not a secret. It was clearly walled off from the base and clearly marked as a school. These people, particularly the monarchist diaspora, love to repeat this statement, not because it's conscionable or legal, but because to them, it helps them feel better about supporting this and calling for this for years. They can place the blame not on themselves or the US, but the Iranian regime. You know, it's not our fault that we bombed this school. It's Iran's fault for having schools. It's a scapegoat for a guilty conscience. He does the same thing here when he shows 2 videos of the IRGC in civilian areas.
The citizen journalism that gets out of the country when there's a flicker of 2% internet shows how the IRGC uses schools and hospitals as military war zones.
He claims that this is evidence of widespread systematic use of civilian sites as military war zones, whatever the fuck that means, by the IRGC. But that's not what these videos show if you actually look at it and think about it, nor is it how international law works. These sites are protected unless there is a clear military need to fire on them. These 5 guys sitting here don't look like they meet the standard of a critical military need that would remove protection for the site. Nor do these other guys walking. I don't even think any of these people are armed. I can't see a gun. Maybe I'm just not looking properly. Now, maybe just off camera, they have a missile silo or a missile launcher or whatever the fuck. Then yes, that would be bad. But that's not what's evidenced here.
Is the priority that America and Israel be the most evil entities in the world that important over truth?
I mean, is the Iranian regime being the most omniscient and evil entity in the world that much of a priority to you? That any war crime be justifiable? Or must have been fake on all accounts? Because let's not forget, this hinges on a bad source claiming that the Iranian regime knew the US was about to strike and sent these girls to slaughter, but didn't even bother to hide their generals or their supreme leader. Like, come on, man. Like, I get it. You keep saying you care about the Iranian lives, and particularly women. But wait until you hear what happens to civilians in war, particularly women and children. Especially if they're occupied after a war.
I can't go to Iran. I can't deploy to Iran. And it's not because I don't want to. I want to serve my country. It's just that I will be an OPSEC liability in any country filled with pretty caramel-colored women.
I mean, look at the generational impact already done in Tehran from the huge amounts of carcinogens that were just put into the atmosphere for no reason. That's before even pointing out that your best case scenario is that the US militarily occupies Iran with troops, which historically leads to women being victimized horribly, all to prop up a king that isn't actually that popular despite what you continue to say, inevitably leading to civil war or military dictatorship, which is what the Americans and the Israelis want, because it means there's no competition then. It's so fucking short-sighted. Especially as, and I know you won't care or believe it, women's rights have actually been growing in Iran, slowly, but they've been growing nonetheless. This counterproductiveness is a video for another time, which I was supposed to be working on, but instead I'm dealing with this shit.
The media and activists and content creators want to say 165 school kids died. For your own business and popularity, you want to go out and go around going, a high number of school kids are dead. That's your position. I'm just telling you, maybe they're not. Like, that's my position.
This is where the CTE from all the trips to Destination Fucked really shines through. I wish he just led with this. He's very upset with people who are concerned that kids are dead, and using the most lukewarm liberal to do it too. And then just comes out and says that based on his research, which we've shown is shit ass, he just doesn't think the kids are actually dead. So let's recap so far. He had 2 photos with weird times that he focused on to throw doubt about a dead child's body, which he conveniently left other information out of that shows they're consistent with every other photo and satellite imagery. So the image of the dead body is basically confirmed. So he's wrong on that. Then he threw doubt at the photo of the graves, but didn't actually make any argument against it, just implied things, again, leaving out information that should have been given to his audience if he was acting in good faith. And now we're here where there is no coherent argument or evidence to say there were no kids killed. But that's what he's going with anyway, because it's a comfortable thought over kids actually being killed for something that he supports. All because this random person on Messenger said that they had a friend who said X, Y, and Z, which is far less verifiable than the photos that he's concerned about. Yet all these people in his comment section are being influenced by this bullshit because they're not going to look it up themselves. He's just lying to them and getting fucking jacked off in the comments for it.
Epilogue.
Oh fuck, here it comes.
The 2026 propaganda hierarchy goes like this. Representative of oppressive government gets platformed by the United Nations.
For the love of the Shah, this is stupid. I know this isn't the most important fact, and no one other than international law nerds will care, but a country's representative talking to the UN or through the UN is not platforming. They're not being platformed by the UN. They are just exercising their right as a member country to the UN. It's the right of all nations, even the ones we don't like. The UN is there to do a job to stop conflicts. And that's working out.
Photojournalism with sensationalism gets over the minimal thresholds of verification with established institutions, AP, Getty. 2 to 3 pieces of user-generated content known by or filmed by oppressive government also go online. Let the geolocators do their work. Media has enough content then to spread the story over and over and over. Open source AI content, not as easily identifiable anymore, gets mixed in.
What I take issue with is that he frames it like it's only a thing repressive governments do, and also ignores the extensive bias these outlets he's referencing have to favorably cover the US and Israel. That's why these news articles will often say brown people died, while Americans and Israelis are killed. And on the same line, these states are not above latching on to false stories in order to get populations to support them in meeting their ends. Take, for instance, 2 years after being disproven, people still cite the 40 beheaded babies on October 7th, or the oven babies, or the widespread systematic rape as a weapon of war, even though no investigation has found evidence for either of these. But a lot of people just take it as fact and use that to support a genocide. This is the same thing that is happening here. It's not just a repressive government thing. It's just a state thing. It's a interest thing. It's a way for states to get support from people to do whatever means necessary in their interest. For Israel, that's wiping Gaza off the map, taking the West Bank and parts of Lebanon. For America, that's taking out Iran so that there is no threat to their regional hegemony, making sure that there is no threat to their profits. But latching onto these real images, propaganda or not, and then creating AI images is a you problem. Like, I'm not saying it's not a big problem, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen for propaganda, but this isn't novel. It doesn't prove anything for you. You haven't presented evidence to show that's what's happened here. You've just pointed to some clearly bullshit and obvious AI images to undermine the other photos that you didn't show were AI. Like, as if no journalist or anyone ever thought to see, oh, is this AI? No. Ozzy Man is the only person who has had that novel thought, apparently.
And 9 out of 10 times their bio will say AI content, bloody passionate about it, media, blogging, graphic design. It's an amazing rabbit hole to go down. Your whole algorithm then puts you in a brand new echo chamber, which is a hoot.
And my echo chamber is entirely Israeli propaganda.
Look, the same propagandas from the beginning of the cycle keep working as well.
This isn't a new thing. You haven't cracked the matrix. The people verifying this shit knew this years ago. This is why your skill set isn't transferable all of the sudden.
Open source AI content, not as easily identifiable anymore, gets mixed in. There's a profile called Minab.academy on Instagram. I found it through Mortez's profile, where from December 2025, it is all about very realistic AI. That's what that community is about. Some of the video AI is eerily similar to the bombing funeral procession imagery that we've been seeing. And you put that into an AI thing and it's like, it can't tell. It just says, nah, it's real.
What does this have to do with the media outlets reporting on the bombing? We already all know social media and the people in it are stupid or bots. You're not disproving anything.
Because with how well the school bombing has gone for Islamic Republic's reputation, despite massacring 30,000 of its own fucking people back in January, they will try this again any day. I'm just waiting for what the next fucking narrative's gonna be.
I genuinely love this bit. See how he just kind of accepts the 30,000 figure just on its face? He doesn't qualify it, doesn't say anything. He just says 30,000. That's what happened. He doesn't doubt it for a second, even though he has spent the entire time talking about how everything else is propaganda. He doesn't even think, wait, would anyone want me to have that number burned into my brain for any kind of reason? Maybe perhaps to sympathize with some kind of action? No, he doesn't have that thought, because why would someone want to propagandize him? Only the Iranians can do propaganda. He's referring here to this, which at the start of the video he insinuated was inauthentic or not an American bomb.
I'm not saying the school wasn't hit. I'm not saying it wasn't a US Tomahawk. I'm aware of that footage in the last few days, and I'm also aware there's a lot of conversation around whether or not it's specifically a Tomahawk.
Outlets like Bellingcat, which mind you are normally being accused of Western bias, is pretty sure it was a US Tomahawk missile. In fact, it's now been reported that US insiders are certain that it was a US Tomahawk missile. And I'm sorry, I'm going to trust them and the work they put into it over your random, unidentified, happen chance source. And just as a side note, how and why would Iran know and action a strike on their own base at the same time as the US and Israel's surprise attack, which caught their leader and top generals off guard enough to kill them? They were so omniscient to prepare and do this strike as a false flag against the US and Israel, but not fucking hide their leadership from the bombs? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It's not logical. And remember, multiple sites on this base were hit, not just the school. Both can't be true.
And it may be that a video like this is already drowned out and overwhelmed to ever really be heard properly, or journalists will just go, it's just a bloody content creator, listen to him ramble.
No, they will go, it's just a cooker with AI-induced conspiracy brain.
I think the metadata's off in multiple places. And I think there's probably a lot of retractions on articles, on early articles to do with this that genuinely need to be done, because these photographers are not trustworthy, their work's not trustworthy.
You haven't shown this at all. You've just asserted it without disproving authenticity or fucking proving anything.
Fuck it. The fact of the matter is Iranian people aren't being listened to. You can't hear from them. There's no witness testimonies. They're imprisoned. And we're not looking out for their voices properly.
There are witness testimonies, actually. Dropsite News, who everyone should go subscribe to, had a journalist on the ground who describes the family's pain when the names of their children are read out as dead. Iranian people are being listened to. You just want people to listen to your Iranian wife and your pro-king diaspora, not the Iranian people as a whole and their many different opinions and experiences. And definitely not the families of these fucking little girls. They are currently suffering through a war that you and your Iranian wife who anointed you spokesperson for all Iranians are cheering for from the other side of the fucking world. Look, I think he knows what he's doing here. And let's at least take the chance to make this a little bit educational so we didn't lose all these brain cells for nothing. What's happened here is Ozzy Man has been getting called out on his bullshit and losing viewers and subscribers for a little bit now because he decided that his marriage to an Iranian makes him the voice of the Iranian people as a whole. And rather than thinking on it and engaging with it and, accepting criticism, he instead just did a Principal Skinner. This has then led to him looking for answers and accepting anything that supported him.
ChatGPT and Gemini have led me down some fucking dodgy paths,
while demonstrably ignoring anything that didn't. Then he created this big conspiracy to explain why he shouldn't feel bad or guilty about this atrocity that he's been supporting because it makes him uncomfortable. This is cognitive dissonance, and we're all victims of it. Our brains are funny like that. All we can do is try to see it and understand it and not fall into the trap. And Ozzy Man is a perfect example of it happening in real time. This also isn't helped by his apparent reliance on AI chatbots in his research for this video. AI chatbots aren't famously known for just reaffirming people's beliefs or anything like that. And then he put all of that together and created the best conspiracy theory he could to make his soul feel better, to rid his soul of any guilt, to place the guilt somewhere so that he didn't have to feel uncomfortable in his worldview. I just want to end on a few questions that I didn't script into it, but I would really like to know if he ever wants to, reply to this video. Because there's still a lot of questions that just don't make sense to me if he's correct. So like I said, why would they preemptively do this but not hide their leadership? That doesn't seem to make sense because the timing's a little off. They had this foresight to set up a false flag at a school, time the bombing with the other bombings, but not hide their leadership. That doesn't make sense. Also, did your source provide any evidence from their friend, or is this just a game of telephone? Who is the friend on the ground? Did you verify it? What effort did you put into verifying that person is real, that the story is real, that any evidence they had for their claim? Like what happened there? You didn't kind of cover that. You just said hiding them for safety, which doesn't absolve you of any additional effort. You mention AI a lot, but don't actually prove anything. What confirmation do you have of the authenticity? You mentioned 90 to 95% are real, but still use that to make this larger conspiracy. What evidence did you have? Did you? And if all of this was to garner sympathy for Iran, what sympathy has Iran garnered? Because quite frankly, everyone I know still doesn't like Iran, but is also now just outraged that, civilians are being targeted and killed and given cancer. So if you have any kind of sourcing on that, that would be great. Actually, in fact, on that, there's probably been more support now for the Iranian regime inside Iran by what's called the rally around the flag effect. So that's cool. I want to do a couple of videos around that, actually, the rally around the flag effect, and actually talk about propaganda and how it works, because Israel fucking loves me on my algorithm. Also, basic international relations 101 stuff, and also just basic shit fuckery that's happening in Australia and around the world. So if you like that kind of stuff, you should give me a like and a follow, and let's try to hope that Ozzy Man will shut the fuck up for a little bit. Thanks.